Scorpio 2, a broken bottle and spilled perfume. Well, it seems like something sad has happened. We've broken the bottle, lost the perfume. But it's not lost, it's emanating. It's spreading out. The aroma of the perfume lingers on. And this is true in our life experiences. Nostalgia indicates this principle. We look back on the sweetest moments in our lives and we remember it fondly. And when we remember it, we get into this state of, this nostalgic state of, oh, that was sweet, that was nice. And that's the perfume that we have of our memories. We do tend to sort of linger a little bit in the past, and we have to let go of that if we're to move forward fully. But we're all subject to nostalgia. We all have this sense of trying to find out what is the aroma of our perfume. When we leave this earth, when we leave any situation, what's left behind us as a memory? What do people feel about us when we're gone? That's the equivalent to this perfume. And the message here is basically that, like a chrysalis, we have to crack open in order to release the potential. The butterfly comes out of the chrysalis. It looks as though the cracking of the egg, of the shell, or in our case, the ego, is damaging and hurtful. It does seem that way. When we're going through a situation where our ego is cracked, in other words, our self-love is broken, our yearning for this or that situation fails, and when we feel devastation and loss and brokenness and all of these things, we can focus on the pain of all of that, which is foolish, really. I mean, the thing to focus on is the release of perfume, which is occurring when the bottle is broken, as it were, when the ego is cracked, when our controlling defense system is seen to be all that it ever was, which is a temporary protection. All of our control systems are temporary. They don't work. We can't stand up to life. It's silly to think that we could. It's not silly to try, because we do have to develop a shell. That's a part of the game, to develop a shield, a protective way of being. And that firms up what it is that we're protecting. That firms up our identity. So by no means is that wrong. The wrongness of it is when we think that it's actually permanent and strong enough to cope with everything that's coming. It can't, it won't, and it's not supposed to. These structures that we build into our lives, these routines, these securities, these control systems, these certainties that we've got in life, are meant to just hold a situation in place for a while so that we can deal with that. We can stoke up the experience. We can have children in our house for 25 years. We can have this really important career for a long period of time. We can have all sorts of other things going on in their season. And because it takes a long time, we have a chance to really focus and find out who we are in relationship to that life event. And yet the certainty is that will end, and we'll look back on it nostalgically, and we'll understand then what that was all about. We won't know in the moment, almost certainly not. But later, looking back, we get to understand, okay, that relationship was to teach me that, or to stop me doing that, or to enable me to do that. And that job was in order to develop this skill and that attitude of being and so on. And now this is useful for what comes next. So we can look back and get a measure of the worth of a situation only when that situation is cracked open, when it's finished, when the perfume is spilled. When we look back in this way, we start to understand our current circumstances differently. Looking back on certain things that we've done, remembering that we were absolutely passionate about them, that was all and everything, and we knew that that was what we wanted to do with our lives, and yet 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later for sure, we look back and it's just like, oh, how immature of me. That was not really very profound or wise. That was youthful. And then later on, you get, okay. Nevertheless, there was much to be gained from that experience. And this sense of understanding what was gained, the perfume of that experience, can then be brought into the current situation that you're involved in. If you're dying, for example, see that process of moving towards your death as creating a different perfume of being. It's actually developing a spiritual sense, or if you've got children to bring up, or grandchildren, or a career, or a hobby, or whatever, try and focus a little bit, not on the purpose, not on the result, but on the relationships, on the tone with which you're carrying out these events, with the awakening of new perceptions that goes with any new experience. Focus on that. Most particularly, focus on your atmosphere of being. When people come to you, do they relax into the heart? Or do they clench up and tense in defense against you? Especially kids. How you are with kids tells you a lot about how open your heart is. A radiant, open heart is very attractive to children and animals, actually. If you have a stern disposition and a serious controlling method, then that's not attractive to children. So you can notice how people respond to you. Do they flinch against you, or do they relax into you? Do they find you relaxing or amusing or comforting or reassuring? Is that what you want them to find you, or do you want them to respect you and to be very disciplined in their relationship with you? Do you want to engender discipline and respect in people? What is it that you want to create as the perfume of your life, which goes on your tombstone, for which you are remembered? And I did an exercise once comparing what my father wanted on his tombstone and my mother wanted on her tombstone. It was an exercise I'd done in a workshop, and it's a good exercise. They tend to write down, let's say, 3 qualities, and you can see the polarization between them. And my mum wanted to be remembered to be kind, and she was kind, very generous woman. And my dad wanted to be remembered as mean. He meant prudent with his money, but he said mean. And we do remember him in that way, you know. He was tight, very controlled, and that's how he's remembered. And we're building a legacy here, and the legacy isn't how much money you leave your kids, or even whether you've got any artworks that stay on the shelves for a few years after you're dead. It's the outpouring of this perfume. You see, perfume spreads, and it just emanates outwards. It diminishes its influence as it goes out, but it's very influential locally. And that's true of the atmosphere of your being. It's very influential locally. It's not just what you say, not just what you do, and it's not just the job that you do. It's who you are. That represents an atmosphere of being, the perfume of yourself. And that changes things. You can just turn up, if you've got a certain type of personality, you can just turn up into a situation. Say nothing at all. Just turn up and be there. And the situation calms down. It's just everybody feels a little bit safer because you've turned up. Or you could be another type of person and turn up in a situation and everybody gets restless and excited and energetic and they can do more and they get on with things. They feel the need to work when you're present because that's what you're like. You expect people to be active and working. So what effect do you have upon groups and what's your atmosphere that you want to leave as a memory of you?